All right, let's get right into it because this is a big one. China just made a move that is set to fundamentally shake up the global economic system as we've known it for the last 50 years. It's not a loud, flashy headline, but believe me, the shockwaves from this could redefine money and power for decades. This quote right here really sets the stage because what we're talking about is a huge under-the-radar shift in the global financial order. It's happening quietly right now, but its effects, well, they're going to be anything but quiet. So this is the central mystery we're unpacking. China, which for decades has been one of America's biggest bankers, is now dumping massive amounts of U.S. Treasury bonds. And you have to understand, this isn't just some boring financial transaction. Oh no, this is a statement, and it has major implications for your savings, your wallet, and your future. To really get why this is such a monumental event, we first need to pull back the curtain on what's been called the dollar's exorbitant privilege. It's the special power the US dollar has had for more than half a century. It's a system that has defined our world, and it's all built on a very specific foundation. That foundation is the dollar's role as the world's global reserve currency. Think of it like this. It's the default money for the entire planet. If countries want to trade with each other, buy essential things like oil, or just save up for a rainy day, they need stacks and stacks of US dollars. It's the bedrock of global finance. So how does this superpower actually work? Well, imagine you had a money printing machine in your basement, and crucially, everyone in the world agreed to accept your paper as real, valuable money. You could spend way more than you earn, right? And you'd just print more to cover the bills. In a nutshell, that's the power America has held. It's how the U.S., with just under 5% of the world's population, gets to consume about 25% of its resources. And for years, China was one of the biggest participants in this system, buying up U.S. debt. At their peak, they held over $1.3 trillion worth. But just look at this chart. That number has absolutely cratered, falling below $800 billion. That's over $500 billion that have been pulled out. And it just begs the question, why? Why now? So what changed? Why would China, after playing this game for decades, suddenly decide to start cashing in its chips? Well, the answer can be traced back to one single game-changing event that sent a shiver down the spine of every finance minister on the planet. So let's just do a quick rewind. In 1971, the U.S. decouples the dollar from gold. Then, the petrodollar system gets set up, forcing the world to buy oil in dollars, which basically locked in its dominance for decades. But then, 2022 happens. The U.S. and its allies did something nobody thought possible. They froze nearly $300 billion of Russia's own money. Now, whatever you think about that conflict, from a purely financial perspective, this was a nuclear moment. And this right here shows the mental shift that happened overnight. The whole world suddenly woke up and realized that U.S. dollars, once seen as the safest asset on Earth, like a global savings account, could actually be used as a political weapon. If you're a country like China, holding trillions of dollars suddenly looks less like a safe investment and a lot more like a strategic vulnerability. But here's the real kicker. China isn't doing this alone, not by a long shot. Their big sell-off of U.S. debt is just one piece of a much larger, much quieter rebellion that's happening all across the globe. Countries are making a coordinated effort to become less dependent on the dollar. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The numbers from the International Monetary Fund are crystal clear. 20 years ago, the dollar made up over 70% of all the money central banks held in reserve. Look at it today. It's down to around 58%. That is a steady, massive, and undeniable trend. The world is diversifying. So where is all that money going? Well, a huge chunk of it is flowing into something very old and very physical: gold. Central banks are buying gold at rates we haven't seen in modern history. And why gold? It's simple. It's the ultimate neutral asset. No single government can print more of it. It exists outside of any one country's political system. And most importantly, you can't freeze it with a keystroke. This whole movement also has a political arm. You've got the BRICS alliance. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Their combined economies are now actually bigger than the G7. And what are they doing? They're building their own parallel financial system so they can trade with each other directly, completely bypassing the dollar. And when a key U.S. ally like Saudi Arabia is openly talking about joining them, well, that tells you a massive shift is underway. Okay, so with the world quietly but surely backing away from the dollar, America finds itself at a massive crossroads. And really, there are only a few very different and pretty dangerous paths forward from here. The first path is, well, the peaceful one: cooperation. America could accept this new reality, embrace a multipolar world, help reform global institutions, and agree to share some of that financial power. It's the smoothest path, but if you look at history, it's also probably the most unlikely. Then you have path number 2, coercion. This is where America uses its incredible political and military might to try and force countries back into line. More sanctions, more political pressure, and maybe even conflict. This is obviously a super dangerous route that risks turning this economic shift into a hot war. And the third path, it's basically to just keep doing the same thing. Just keep the money printer running. But with fewer countries buying U.S. debt, that means the government would have to print even more money to pay its own bills. And that leads down a very dark road of out-of-control inflation, insane interest rates, and potentially a severe economic crisis at home.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This is all fascinating, but it's big geopolitical stuff. What does any of this actually have to do with me? The answer is everything. This shift directly hits your wallet, your savings, and your ability to just live your life.
See, for decades, the dollar's special status gave Americans cheaper stuff from overseas and lower costs to borrow money. As that system unwinds, the bill comes due. It means inflation could become a permanent feature of our lives, making everything from gas to groceries more and more expensive. It means the cash you've worked so hard to save could be worth less and less each year. This isn't some abstract theory. This stuff directly affects your financial security. Ultimately, it comes down to a simple truth. The world that we all grew up in, the one where the US dollar was the undisputed king of the hill, is changing. It's changing right now. The slow, quiet unwinding of this 50-year-old system is happening in real time. And the question that leaves every single one of us with is, what comes next? And are we prepared for it?